This is John Walton, and you're listening to the Power Play Point podcast with the Blue Liner on point and Anna Knox. Here's Wilson, and on the right circle, he scores!
Rebound loose, wild scramble in front, score! Ovechkin with a buzzer beater! It'll count!
And the hat trick tonight, number 21,
Hello, welcome once again to the Power Play Point podcast. This is your host, the Blue Liner on Point, talking to you live to tape from downtown Glen Burnie, Maryland. It's what one of my old friends likes to call a false Maryland spring, part 2, 60-plus degree day out here in the Baltimore suburbs. And, just sat through another disappointing Caps game. Don't like to say it that way, but you call it for what it is, I guess. I have given the Mermaid 2 weekends off owing to hers and her daughter's birthdays these next 2 weeks. And given the fact that we're coming up on a very hot stove type of topic, part of the NHL hockey season, that being the trade deadline in about 1 week's time, I have invited back a very special, very credentialed, very knowledgeable guest to talk about the doings or possible thereofs as such. Mr. Marcus Richard Lemley, please make yourself welcome.
How you doing? I'm doing good today. How about yourself, Gil?
I are doing fine. And once again, yes, please. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here and lending your voice, your knowledge, your everything to this podcast as we discuss what is, what could be, what might be, and what will be. But first, we're going to go through, as we normally do, and we got a lot of ground to cover, so we're just going to jump right in it. Just like summertime ice bath. Going to jump right in it here and get through the 4 games that were played low this last week of February into March. So we'll start with the game this last Sunday, or Monday rather, Monday night to be exact, against Ottawa. And it was a 6-3 win for our Caps at the Cap One Arena. Very well played game, I thought, from start to finish. Though it looked kind of dicey in the second half of the first. Quick rundown of the scoring: Lexi Protas, his 5th. Mantha and McMichael, so the McPromo line again, coming through to open the scoring, 6:30 at even strength. John Carlson, his 4th from Strome on the power play, 8:30. So exactly 2 minutes later, gives him a 2-goal lead. Drake Batherson, who I don't know why, but always seems to kill the Caps, his 19th. Brady Tkachuk and Shane Pinto, the assist on that one, 10-12, makes it 2-1. And 2.5 minutes later, to the exact, Pinto himself gets his 5th. Travis Hamonic, however you say it, and Tkachuk on the assist on that one. So tie game. Yeah, Hamonic. Okay, I've heard it both ways. Hamonic, the primary assist on that one. And so that ties the game. About a minute and a half left. Caps get a power play. Max Pacioretty puts it home for his 2nd as a Cap. Scarbosa and McMichael, the assists on that one. Good to see McMichael get some power play time. And Scarbosa as well. And I really thought this would be where Pacioretty would excel is on the power play. Good to see him get that opportunity as well. And 14 seconds later, Beck Malenstein with his 6th, Protas and Obey Kubel double assists on that one at 18:47, puts the Caps up by 2 at the end. All in the first period. And so the second, just before 90 seconds in, Brady Tkachuk, his 26th, Vlad Tarasenko and Shane Pinto on the assist for that one, pulls the Sens within 1. And Hendrix Lapierre, his third. And correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus, was this the first game he was called up or the second?
This was, I believe, the third. I think he's played 3 games before that. This is his third game since being called up.
So he'd been up a while. Okay.
He's been up a while, but he's only played like the last 2 games before this. So they called him up, I think, when Mantha was sick or was hurt. He was a game time decision, and then Lapierre didn't play, but he played the very next game when one of the other players went down. I think it was Dowd. So he was called up when Dowd got hurt, but he didn't play. No, he did play. So he was called up when Dowd got hurt. So yeah, when Dowd got hurt, not Mantha, Dowd. So yeah, but he's been up ever since.
Right, and I think what opened the door for him actually getting ice time was Milano getting sick.
Yes.
For a couple of games. That actually opened the door for him actually seeing the ice, and he's been making it pay off this whole time, making a good case for staying with the big club,
especially in that face-off circle.
Yeah, as we'll discuss later on. So he gets his third. Malenstein his 10th assist on that one, and Ethan Bear an assist on that one. 1:58 in, so the Caps respond 31 seconds later, and Lapierre again ices it. 10:55. Mantha and Protas on the assist to
a beautiful pass by Mantha. I think it was a beautiful pass by Mantha.
So, yeah, let's take a look at that one. I'm going to call it up on the app, calling up the video, hitting the play button. So a block point shot by the Senators gets turned around. Lapierre, this was the tic-tac-toe pirouette point celebration. So it was a blocked point shot that Lapierre turned around, and it was pretty much him and Mantha all by themselves with the 2-on-1. And yeah, they just pretty much played catch for about 60 feet. And Mantha sauced it over. Lapierre throws it into the half-empty net. Bing, bang, bong, and it's in. So yeah, that was a pretty looking goal. I like that one.
I will say though, because this was the first game, my buddy that we went to this game. Me and Cheryl went to this game. We went with my buddy Ian, my coworker. This was his first ever Caps game. So this being a first ever Caps game was probably a big moment for him because they played very well from the get-go. Like they looked like they were the better team from the start. We can't say that for the next game. We cannot say that for the next game though.
No, about 50% of the games, hint, hint, the ones that they won, they clearly look like the better team in both of them. Although, if you're looking at the numbers, you would not think so. Although you can make the case. Okay, so 20 shots on goal only for the guys in red. You would have liked to see more, but then again, you can make the case that says, okay, well, that means they had a great shot percentage, and or they knew how to select their shots. That's fine, but that's not always going to win you games, and you're not always. Go ahead.
Yeah, I always think the shots, they're like the actual shots on net are not what I look at. I look at shot attempts. If you're making more shot attempts, as I don't know how many shot attempts we had in the game, but I'm just saying if you only have 20 shots, but you have like say 40 to 60 shot attempts, I think that's fine. That's fine because you're at least making an attempt to shoot the puck, as where you only have 20 shots and maybe 25 shot attempts, which means you barely have the puck. You're not shooting. You're passing it. You're trying to be too cute. You're not getting pucks to the net, which I don't think we had that case. I think that game we had a lot of shot attempts and we put the puck towards the net, evidently why we won 6-3.
Right, for sure. And someday the NHL statisticians will wise up and make shot attempts a standard part of the stats package. Right now, it's not. But you can see that kind of a thing definitely on a place like Natural Stat Trick, as I've often mentioned, as a good place to look up advanced stats. I haven't gone through that NHL Edge a whole lot, but I heard a few good things about that. So that's probably another place you can look up something like that as well. So the shot attempts were probably, given the fact that the Caps were attacking the net all night, probably something to double, maybe even triple the actual shot on net count. So, like you said, Marcus, that's more of an indicator of the overall effort, which, has been a hallmark of this team. When they put out that maximum effort and beyond, they usually win. So as far as the offensive output, power play was 2 for 3. It's great to see. They've been rolling since late January, so that continues. Very, very lightly penalty called game. Refs took another long coffee break on this one. 8 minutes and penalties total. So a guy like Brady Tkachuk running around on the ice, kind of surprising as far as that goes, but that's what happens. This kind of surprised me a bit, though. Okay, well, this gets back to what you were saying, Marcus. Caps had 28 block shots, so that's them blocking shots. So the Sens were getting their opportunities as well. So this was a back and forth. This is a good back and forth game.
It was, but I think Friday's game, when we get to it, was much better. I think after that first period, when we get to it, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So it's one of those cases where some of the numbers can be misleading, but very well played game, I thought. Caps definitely won by making more of their chances and forcing the Senators into their game, which when they force you to make mistakes, they force the opposition to make mistakes, they tend to come out the better. They still have the skill guys that can do that can hurt you. So good to see there. So it's okay. So we're going to jump to the next game, but I'm going to draw a line right through this, because this to me was a total aberration, abomination. Dig out your thesaurus, but it was both. Detroit hung an 8 spot on the Caps. All of about maybe 0.333 repeating were Charlie Lindgren's fault. The defense just literally took a night off. Just absolute horrible performance. The goals scored by the Caps were LaPierre again, who continues his streak of great play. Scarbosa got the second one, and Pacioretty got yet another one on the power play. But this one clearly was all Detroit. They ran circles around them all night long.
Detroit's been doing that lately.
Yeah, just terrible, just absolutely terrible. And and no two ways about it. It wasn't fun to watch. You name it, they were really bad at it, except for the possible exception of the power play. Converted one of their 2 chances, but they sucked at the faceoff dot, 35%. You give a team like Detroit that much of the possession off the get-go, what did you expect? So, and I got a question for you, Marcus. When the hell did Shane Gostisbehere get so damn good?
Well, he played. Did he play for Florida last year? I don't know if he did. If he did, he played really well.
I don't know if he played. I forget who he was with last year.
I know he played for Detroit this year. Was it Carolina? Is it either Carolina or Florida? He played really. I think it was Florida. I think he went to Florida for a season. He played really well for the Panthers, and then like this year, no, he might have just signed with Detroit. He went to Arizona. And then he went to Detroit. He's just having a really good year this year. And I mean, I think, is he paired with, what's his name? Shit. Seider? Is he paired with Moritz Seider?
If he is, that would explain a lot. Yeah. Cause, he's Moritz Seider will make you look very, very good.
Yeah. So he's probably top 5 defenseman in the league.
If that's
in my
if
opinion.
that's the case, that would definitely explain it, at least for me. So just looking him up real quick. You were right the first time. He actually played with Carolina.
Okay, Carolina.
Half of last year,
Half of last year. All right, so
and
that
then
that
he
kind of helped
signed.
him.
Yeah, then he signed with Detroit. Yeah, Carolina's got a good decor as well. So yeah, he
Rob
might have
Brennan
picked up
more.
something there.
He's that's the one thing I like him about his coaching is he can bring a lot out of his defenseman.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I didn't expect it. I thought it would be a lot closer game, but I don't know that the Caps knew how good this team actually was. I don't think many people knew how good Detroit actually is, but
Well, they started off hot at the beginning of the season. Then they cooled off in the middle of the year. But now they're heating up again. They're beating. It's not like they're beating teams like 3-2, 4-3, 5-4, 2-1 every night. No, they're crushing teams around this time. They were crushing. I think they came off 3 games in a row where they scored 6 or more goals against the opponent. Which we're going to go into the next game after this one, where we played another opponent who scored 6 or more goals in the last few games.
Right. And, Dylan Larkin, he's probably still one of the 5 fastest guys in the whole league. So always something to watch out there. All right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did Lucas Raymond play? I don't know if he played or not.
I'm pretty sure he was in the game. He was in that game. Yeah.
I think he scored a goal. He's another one of their top players. They got a lot of players on that team that's very good. Like, I'm shocked that they're not in top 3 of the division. I guess goaltending and somewhat the defense has been holding them back. But I mean, if Detroit gets into the playoffs, they're going to be sneaky. Like, they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, well, after this night, it wouldn't surprise me. Lucas Raymond got 1 goal in this game, and he got 2 assists.
Yeah, he's been playing really well for them too, as he should, since he's a top 10 pick.
So that was that game, and thus endeth the month of February for the Caps. Then it's on to Friday back home at Cap One, and this we're going to focus on a little bit more. Going to make this the feature game of the week because this was probably the most complete game the Caps have played all 60 minutes.
Outside of the first period, I would say outside of the first period.
Okay, so I wasn't going to give them too much of a bad mark, but yeah, it didn't look good.
I was at the game, so I got to see it up and personal. They did not look good in that first period. Like, they couldn't even stay in Philly's zone for more than 2 minutes. Every time they got the puck in the zone, it was already out of the zone, heading towards their zone. Philly, and this is just not the first period. Throughout the game, Philly found ways to pin us in our own zone. Like, and there was a moment that they almost, if Lindgren doesn't make that save, I think this is a different outcome. I think if Philly ends up tying it and ends up winning it. Lindgren made a huge save towards the end of this game, and it leads to Milano taking it down the ice, passing the puck to Pacioretty, and Pacioretty goes across the crease to Strome. And as much as I like Strome, I still don't think he's going to be a future guy of the team. But he's done a lot. He's grown a lot these last 2 years with the Caps. Strome last year wouldn't have done this. He sat and waited for the goalie to come out, and he picked his corner and he scored.
Yep. Nice looking goal there. So what Marcus was just describing was the 5th and game ending goal by Strome. So going back to the beginning, real quick, the first period, Bobby Brink, his 9th, Frost and Tippett on the assist there at 152.
That goal was very avoidable. I think if Protas uses his body, Brink doesn't get that shot on net. He knocks Brinks down. Or if Protas is there a little second earlier, he's able to knock the puck to the side. I feel like that goal was just so unlucky for the Caps. That was not a good start for them. For a goal like that to happen.
I'm watching the replay now, and yeah, I think Protas was, 1, a little slow on the back check, at least for my liking anyway, and 2, like you said, did not. Yeah, if you're going to position yourself in front of the crease, which he did, and take the defensive spot, you gotta be there and plant yourself. Not unlike a guard in basketball, and post up and get them out of there. And he didn't. He was just a half a step too slow and relied on his stick, and that just wasn't going to get the job done. And Brink put that one away. So it did that one. That one didn't look good. Pardon me, power play goal. You almost expect it from Owen Tippett. This guy's gotten pretty good his few short years in the league. That's his 22nd. Frost and Zamula on the assists on that one. So Caps went down 2-0 into the first. 4:34, Captain gets his 17th. And if I'm not mistaken,
I did call this. You can even ask Cheryl. I said on the draw. I said Obi's going to score right here.
Yep. This was the one. This was the one right off the draw. So Hendricks Lapierre wins it. Wilson cradles it and finds Ovechkin getting a little space, getting a little separation from behind the scrum, and within the left circle, flings it past and into the net for his 17th of the year. So that breathed life into what wasn't looking very good. I mean, they were keeping up, but they weren't doing enough, I thought, to win the game.
This woke the team up. It
definitely did. It definitely did. And then 5.5 minutes later, Sonny Milano, his 7th, Pacioretty and Strome on the assist, tying the game. Even strength goal. Carlson puts the Caps up for good. Go ahead.
That Milano goal was that. I think wasn't before that. Pacioretty had a breakaway. Everson made the save, but the Caps kept the puck in the zone and eventually led to Milano lifting the puck over his shoulder and making it 2-2. I think that was I think that's what happened. Yeah, because they kept the puck in the zone after that breakaway, and they hit a strong forecheck, and Milano finds a way to put the puck in the back of the net. So that right there, that play alone. Yes, Pacioretty didn't score on the breakaway, but they kept playing. And right there, I felt like after that goal, I just felt like we were going to win the game, because then we killed a huge penalty. And we took it was a bad penalty. It was a really bad penalty, but they gave them anyways. They killed it off. Momentum was on our side, and Carlson makes a beautiful wraparound from pass from Lapierre. Lapierre gives him the puck. He wraps around, and it was a beautiful goal. I mean, the place went nuts.
Yeah, so that was the goal that put the Caps up for good. So it was a point shot. John Carlson had activated and is actually behind the net and beat the goalie Airstrom, I think his name was. And,
I think it's Everson. It might be Iverson. I think it's Iverson.
Let's see. Double check here. Airson.
Pearson? Yes, okay.
Airson is his name.
Yeah.
Bring him up here. Samuel Airson, a Swede who's been up with the team for about a year and a half. Doing pretty good. Already got 3 shutouts, so wasn't any slouch in goal. But Carlson with the wraparound beats him, beats his pad, puts them up for good 3-2. And so the rest of the scoring would be Mantha would get one, 6:04 in the third on the power play, and Strome would get his 22nd, the one that was described earlier, to ice it at 15:38. Pacioretty and Edmondson on the assist for that one. So Strome had a goal and 2 assists that night. So definitely number 1 star candidate. Very well played for most of it, I would say. I don't think the Caps played badly enough to lose. I think it was in the first period. It was one of those things where,
just unlucky bounces.
A little bit of unlucky, a little bit of Philly making their own luck, which they've done all year. A little bit of outworking. So that's when they do that, they can jump ahead of you pretty quick. But I like the compete level. I like the attitude, and they didn't let it get them too down. They knew once they started attacking the net, and then lead by example is the captain. Once he started that rally, they felt good enough about themselves to continue the attack. That's really what it was all about.
And to add on to that, Dylan Strome, I think, deserved that first star, but I think LaPierre definitely deserved that second star, because I feel like this game is what really showed the growth for how his 200 game has really grown from this year to last year. Because LaPierre, there was 3 or 4 times where he came back in the zone and he back checked and he broke up a play. If you look at the takeaways, we actually have way more takeaways in this game than you thought. I mean, at the first period, we were dominating takeaways from 6-1. But LaPierre, this was his best game, even better than the Ottawa game. Even though he didn't score, he showed up in other areas where he didn't show up in Ottawa. Like the face-off circle, every time LaPierre was in that face-off circle, he either tied it or he won it. He dominated that face-off circle, which is another reason why I think we were able to come back and win, because he won that draw. Remember, if he doesn't win that draw, Ovi doesn't score. If Ovi doesn't score, we don't know what happens. But he wins that draw, and it ends with Ovi scoring. So I got to give props to him. The kid has really shown. Like he looks like he doesn't want to go back down to Hershey. I think he will go down to Hershey when we miss the playoffs, because Hershey's going to need a number 1 center to push for the playoffs. But yeah, this was his game. Like his name was written all over it. Like from back checking, from hitting, from getting that top line all night looked really good. And let's talk about Hathaway getting his ass kicked. Oh my God. Wilson Ovi had to hold back. Like he had to grab Hathaway and push him away, or Wilson was going to murder him. Because what happened was I think they were fighting. They were fooling around at the beginning in front of the goaltender. They were whacking at each other, and then I think Hathaway did something to piss Wilson off, and he just throws him a nasty hook, like a nasty right. If you look at the replay and you see Hathaway getting up, he doesn't know where he is. Wilson completely knocks some sense out of him. And that I don't know if that was after the what's it called, the whatever thing it's called, the appreciation memorial.
I'm pretty sure it was, because all that happened late in the game. That was 7:39 in the third when all that happened.
I thought we had the appreciation for Hathaway in the first period. I thought it was late in the first period. So that happened in the third period. So I don't think it was after it. I think it wasn't right after. It was in the third period. Because I do remember that it was still 2-0 Philadelphia, but then they gave Hathaway his appreciation, because then they played his goal song that he had when he was here. No Love. I think, is it No Love?
What is Love? Hathaway.
What is Love? Yeah, What is Love? I'm thinking of the other one, the remix from Eminem and Lil Wayne. Yeah. But yeah, that game, like I said, LaPierre had him written all over. It was his first game on the top line with Ovi and Wilson, and I think he made them look really good. I mean, if you even look, there's a YouTube. The Caps pulled up him out. He was mic'd up for that game. He was calling out Willie. He was calling out Ovi. He was telling him go here, go there. Like he looked like he belonged on that top line. And I mean, I don't know if he played top line. He was projected to play top line minutes today, but he only played 13 minutes. So I don't know if the top line barely played, because Ovi has 20 minutes, but then again, he plays power play minutes. LaPierre doesn't. So I don't know if he finished the game on the top line, but I do know for a fact that he started the game on the top line. But this game had his name written all over it, and I was excited to see the kid. That's why I purchased his jersey. I'm getting his jersey in a couple of weeks. LaPierre, baby. This kid will be the number 1 center, maybe even next year. This game proved it. Like he's ready. He's ready, but I think he'll finish the season in Hershey, because the Bears are going to the playoffs. The Bears can lose the rest of the way of the season. They're still going to make the playoffs because they're the best team in the league. And they're going to need Lapierre more than the Caps need him because the Caps are not going to make the playoffs. No offense to you Caps fans that are positive and they want to think positive. I'm sorry, but the writing's on the wall. We're not making the playoffs. Today's loss kind of proves it. So don't be shocked if you see Dowd, Mantha, Jensen, TVR, even Pacioretty, Edmondson, maybe even Lindgren gone by Friday because you said earlier in the week, you also have been stating all season, don't trade unless the trade makes sense. But I feel like getting rid of all those guys, it makes sense because it opens the door for the younger guys to come up. They can play their minutes. We're not going to make the playoffs. If they have to go back down to Hershey, they're waiver exempt. They can go back down. They'll play for Hershey. They can get some experience up here, go back down to Hershey, and we'll get into it. A couple guys that we might see at the end of the season, depending how long their NCAA teams, their college teams go far. But yeah, this game was awesome, and I'm glad me and Cheryl went. Cheryl even said herself, this game was her experience was a lot better than the Ottawa game we went to on Monday.
Now, well, jumping back to Lapierre for a second, and we talked about this the last time he was up. He'll more often than not, he'll give you a lot of bang for the buck. This game against the Flyers, he only had 13 minutes and 47 seconds time on ice. Here's how his stat sheet reads otherwise. All right, 13:47 on the ice, no goals, 2 assists, 2 points, 2 shots on goal. All right. 19 shifts, +2 defensively, no penalty minutes, 2 blocked shots. By the way, that tied for the best among forwards. Okay. Here's something else. 2 hits.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, a 57% face-off win percentage. Now, it doesn't say how many draws he took, but like you said, he took a lot of key draws, especially that 50? One. 57. 57.
That's because they don't count draws. Like the Caps win draws, but the Flyers end up with the puck. They still count that as the Flyers win, even though he wins the draw and he ties it up. They don't. That's why sometimes I hate the stats for face-off circles because a player can tie another player up. In my opinion, that's them winning the draw, even if the other team ends up with the puck. But yeah, 50%, I think he won at least 65%. I think he won a little bit more than that. But you know what? 50% is still really good, especially against a team that's, I don't think the Flyers are that good in the face-off circle, but they've been really good lately. So, and I mean, especially for the Caps who are like, if you look at it outside of Lapierre and McMichael, he's having an amazing season, but his face-offs, he needs to get better in the circle. That's probably his biggest weakness this year is he's been losing draws that he needs to win. He lost almost all of his draws in that game. You can even look it up. I don't know if I'm correct, but the ones that I've saw, he lost majority of them. But there was another game, I think, was it Columbus that you went to that Lapierre was in? He won majority of the draws of the game for the Caps. Like every time he was in that circle, he won it. He won it, and he got a goal, and I think he got 2 assists in that game. Third line.
That was the other game, where he played third line minutes, and his stat sheet read a lot like the one I just read from this game. So he's going to give you a quality effort, and when he really hits, it counts. It really counts. So, I mean, what number 1 center? I think he's going to be. I think this is probably going to be his trajectory. He's going to be eased into the number 1 slot. Probably not this year, although he should get more time on it. I think.
I think next year.
Get used to it. Yeah, but he's going to get more of a shot at it next year for sure.
Honestly, I think from the start, I don't think he's going back to Hershey after this. If the Bears repeat, or if they lose, which I'm predicting. As much as I love the Bears, I'm predicting they're going to get upset in the first round. I have a feeling that this feels a lot like how the Caps did in 2018 going into 2019's playoffs. They were riding high. They had that amazing win streak. They're not playing. They played some good teams recently and they've lost. So I'm thinking they're gonna they're gonna probably lose in the first round, which I'm fine with that because the Bears they had an amazing run last year. I'm still gonna go to the games. I'm still gonna have fun, but I honestly think after this season, he may finish the season in Hershey. He's not going to start it in Hershey next year because Kuznetsov's gone. Kuznetsov was the only one holding Lapierre back. That is a huge gap that they need to fill, and Lapierre is ready to take over.
Right. Speaking of Kuznetsov, we're not ignoring what happened. We'll speak on that here in a moment. I just wanted to finish up the recaps, and unfortunately, that includes the game that was just played today. They're all must-win games, but as we get down a lot closer to the end, they're all increasing exponentially in importance, and none more so than your latest. And especially when it's a team that had been struggling, shall we say, to get points.
Yeah. I gotta ask, didn't they sweep us last year?
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't think we've done well against the Coyotes for like at least 2-3 seasons now.
They're kind of like Dallas and San Jose, right? Where we struggle. Because Dallas has beaten us. San Jose, I'm surprised we beat San Jose at home because San Jose has owned us. Nashville has owned us at home as well.
Yeah, I don't think the record's been very good, at least going on the last 2 years. I remember the last home game where they fell behind in a similar fashion. They just couldn't catch up, and it was something like 4-1 or something like that. And they just
let's not talk about that game. Let's also not talk about last year's game in the reverse retros where we were up 2-0 and we gave up 3 goals in that third period, and especially we gave up a goal late, and I think it was 5 seconds left in the game, or 18 seconds left in the game. We gave up. Oh no, I think it was a minute left in the game. We gave up a goal to make. I think it was 3-2, and we lost 3-2 to the Coyotes. Let's not talk about that because that game last year in itself kind of mirrored of these 2 games we played them this year. I mean, we've taken Arizona lightly, and we shouldn't take them lightly, even though they're the third worst team the fourth worst team in the league behind Columbus, Chicago, and San Jose, maybe even Anaheim. So they might be the 5th worst team. But it just they're also on a 14-game losing streak. Then they beat Ottawa and they beat us. So it's frustrating, and we're, like you said, we're gonna get in the recap. But it's just today I had a feeling we were gonna lose because 1, it's a matinee game. 2, we don't play well against Arizona, and 3, we've been playing really well lately. We've also been playing well. In the next game, we pull a stinker. The last 4 games, like we said, Monday we played well against Ottawa. Tuesday we pulled a stinker against Detroit. Friday we played well against Philadelphia, and then today we pulled a stinker. The only thing that sucks now is we're in the hunt, but now we got to wait until Thursday, and by then we could be almost 12 points out of third place. If you think about it, I know 10 points out of third place. We could be 10 points out of third place because I believe Philadelphia plays 2 more games before we play Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it's and not to sound doom and gloom, but you got to face reality here. And the Monumental guys, even on the broadcast, even said so. Look, the numbers sooner or later aren't going to add up, and it's the chances of surviving this are shrinking ever so much with each loss. And this was so important to get the 2 points, however they could have gotten them. OT, shootout, regulation, it really didn't matter against this team, but they had to have them, and they came up short. And it was, like you said, they knew this was a potential letdown game, and yet they came out. Well, the first 3 minutes, I would say, they came out fairly well. And then something happened after that where everything just went flat. And
then the Logan Cooley goal. It was the breakaway goal.
Yeah, and then that kind of got them off the rhythm, and then they started giving up power plays, and then Milano got a power play goal of his own, which made it 2-1. So Cooley got that breakaway goal, his 10th, 7:33 in the first. Jason Zucker gets his 9th 4:06 on the power play for the Coyotes, makes it 2-0. 2-0. Milano gets his 8th. Ovechkin and Sandin on the power play assist makes it 2-1. You think there's hope, and there's not. And this was the real. This was. They had some life, but this was the killer, I thought. Kesserling gets his 5th. Ex-cap Liam O'Brien and Valimaki with the assist on that one. Clean shot, beat Lindgren clean, high to the blocker side, and yeah, I thought that one was and it turned out to be the game-winning goal. But that one was the killer. They got another one, Coyotes did, on the power play at 18:01. Dylan Gunther, his 8th. Mantha, they get a power play late in the second, spilled over to the third. Mantha got his 20th on the power play. Dylan Strome with the assist on that one makes it 4-2, 10 seconds in. But yeah, just too little too late. And Schmaltz ices it with the empty netter at 19:39. Not a whole lot to say. They gave a great effort the last 10 plus minutes of the third, but it wasn't enough. I don't know if they were just not up for the game or what. I think if they sit there and make excuses, it doesn't look good on them. But I don't know. I can't come up with an explanation other than they just simply weren't ready. Somebody in Twitter suggested that the Kuznetsov stuff, which we'll get to in here in a minute, might have been a bit of a distraction. I don't know about that, but I don't know, just so much stuff going on. But you got to keep your head about you. A coach said this. Al Koken said this. They all said this. You're in the hunt for a playoff. You got to keep your head. You got to keep your eye on what's in front of you. And they took their eye off the puck, and it cost them this game and possibly a shot at the playoffs.
And honestly, this game kind of proved that we need to sell. I mean, even if we do on this miracle run and we make the playoffs, which it's happened, teams have sold they've sold players and they've gone on runs to make the playoffs. I mean, look at Nashville. Nashville 2 years ago, they sold half their team and they went on a run and they made the playoffs. They got swept, but they made the playoffs. I'm trying to think of another team. Who else? There was another team that sold and they still ended up making the playoffs. I don't want to say New Jersey. There was another team that's like Colorado was one, but they did that in December. They traded Matt Duchene, and that's what really led to them winning the Stanley Cup in 2022. But yeah, like this game and as a whole, like just in my opinion, just crumble it up, throw it away, and get ready to go on to Pittsburgh. And I have a feeling we're gonna. And I don't want to jinx us, but I have a feeling we're gonna beat on Pittsburgh because the Penguins right now they're done. Like they look lost. This looks like it might be the end of Coach Mike Sullivan's coaching career in Pittsburgh. And I feel like this will be a great bounce back game, but I also have a feeling we're going to end up losing to Chicago the very next game after that. Which this brings me to my point. My next point is this game might have been Anthony Mantha's last home game in DC. I have a feeling he's gone. I don't think he'll be at home against Chicago next Saturday. I don't think he'll be in the lineup. I think he'll be gone by Friday. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he's gone before Thursday because he's playing really well. And he's playing to the point where we might even be able to get a first round pick for him because he's playing so well right now. Even though he's on third line minutes, he's playing like he's in the top 6. He's putting up top 6 points. He's playing really well right now, and he's I think he's the third leader in goals this year. He might be the second because I know he leads the team in goals. Yeah, I think he's the second. It's Strome and then him because I think Strome has 24 or 22.
22, I think. But yeah, him 22. And Mantha are the only two right now on the Caps that have hit 20 for the season.
That'll change. Ovi will have. I guarantee Ovi's going to score at least 13 more goals before the end of the year. Especially if he keeps playing with Lapierre, I think he'll find the back of the net at least either 3 more times, maybe I'd say 8 more times. I think he'll finish the season with 28, a little under 30, which leads me to my next point. Is Ovi going to have an effect, which we can get in the trade? We can do trade deadline right now if you want. is that going to affect? Will Ovi affect how we trade this year? Because you wanted to come to me about this too, because there's another thing I want to bring up. Brian McClellan has already also stated that he's going to have Ovi within the talks and conversations. He didn't have Ovi last year. He has Ovi this year. Remember, Ovi left because his father passed away last year during the trade deadline. He was gone for, I think, 2 weeks? And within those 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, we traded Orloff, we traded Hathaway, we traded for Sandin.
Well, I'm of two minds about that. Obviously, he still wants to win, so he has an idea of who might help. But then again, some of his ideas, Ilya Kovalchuk, have not panned out very well in the past.
We don't bring him up. Please don't bring him up again.
But just
terrible.
as one example, so I'm of two minds about that. My fear, though, more than anything, is that okay, so yeah, realistically, they should get what they can, but at what cost? And the what I'm getting at is all those deals you mentioned last year. Okay, so unfortunately, yes, it got them Rasmus Sandin. It got them some capital, some movement. They moved out Marcus Johansson, which I think ultimately was a good move because he was stunting some of the forwards' development. His presence was doing that. I'm sorry, but he was.
I think was our second round pick last year's draft. Was that our own second round pick or was it another pick we got? Because we got another pick from I think it was not Winnipeg. We used the Winnipeg second round pick to get Vanacek back. I think we got a second round pick for Moja, right? I think it was.
I think so. Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure that pick got turned around for either Sandin or somebody else.
No, the first round pick was from Boston. We used that first round pick to get Sandin.
That's
that first round pick was basically Sandin.
That's right.
But I believe we got either a second or a third round pick, which I think it was a third round pick, a third and maybe a fifth, because we used one of the picks we had this year from a trade that we drafted. I think it was either the guy from not trying to get sidetracked, but the guy from from Hamilton, the kid we got from Hamilton. And then we also drafted Cameron and Allen. But I think that pick, one of those two picks, was from a trade. But I know the Andrew Cristal pick and the Ryan Leonard pick were our own draft picks, which leads to my next point. We'll get into him in a minute, Ryan Leonard. But yeah, I think right now I'm going to go on a prediction right now, and we'll see if it's right next Sunday. I think Mantha's gone. I think he'll be traded by Thursday. I think Dowd will be gone because Scarbosa has looked good. Even though Scarbosa looks good, I don't think Scarbosa will be the eventual fourth-line guy because he's 30. I think it's still Riley Sutter. I think it will be Riley Sutter because Riley Sutter right now leads the top penalty kill minutes for the Bears, and that's exactly what the Caps need on our fourth line center. And as much as Brad in the message group doesn't like that he's slow, we don't need a fast fourth line guy. We need a guy. Look at Jay Beagle. He wasn't that fast. He was fast, but he wasn't that fast. He was excellent in the face-off circle, which is what Riley Sutter does, and he was an excellent penalty killer. He was by far our best penalty killer in the years that he played for us, Jay Beagle. So I don't think we need a fast fourth line guy. And he'll be back with Beck Mallenstein. I'm pretty sure Mallenstein would love that. I think Riley Sutter could be up in the year. I don't know. It depends if the team thinks he's ready. But I do think he'll be our fourth line guy next year because I think Dowd's gone. I think Jensen could be gone. A team's going to want a bottom six pair defenseman. He'll be good for that. Edmondson will be a good guy, like say for Edmonton, to get a guy in the blue line that's going to use the body. I think for sure though, Mantha is definitely gone. I think we're going to get a first round pick for him because he's playing excellent right now. And I think he'd fit well on a top six team.
What? So you mentioned it, and losing Dowd would be part of that. But what I was getting at was my fear, at least as what happened last year. We got a quality defenseman in Sandin. There's no question about that. But it cost them a lot, and I mean a lot, of their grit, both on the forward and the defense. You gave away your biggest hitter, and granted, probably weren't going to be able to afford him anyway.
Orlov
gave him, traded him away and traded away Hathaway. He wasn't going to put points on the boards, but he was going to make life difficult for your opposing forwards. And I think, unfortunately, that's been a good chunk of their problem this year, is because they lost a lot of that element of being hard to play against. Now, what I'd like to see this year is somehow for the Caps to get some of that back, whether it's by trade or calling up a Riley Sutter and giving him some pro minutes, and giving a hungry guy like that. Oh, you want me to go after this guy? I'll do it. I want that. I want that back. I don't care about anybody who's real fast or put points on the board right now. I want the guy that's going to run down and forecheck and try to win the battles along the board. I want that guy.
Then that brings my point back to, we don't need that on the fourth line. We don't need speed on the fourth line. The fourth line is not there to outskate the other team. That's what the top six is for. Like, you don't see Nathan McKinnon playing on the fourth line. You see Andrew Cogliano. Sorry to bring up Colorado, but Colorado and Vegas are the last two Stanley Cup champions. Look at their bottom, their fourth line. Do you see anyone that's really fast on the fourth line? No, it's hard hitting, checking, back checking, really good defensive forwards. Not someone that's going to put the puck in the net. Yes, they can score, but they're not going to put the puck in the net every night. They're going to be out there shutting down the other team's top line, and that's why me and Brad get into it. As much as I like getting into him, Brad is smart. He knows what he's talking about, and he's very, his hockey knowledge is very high. So I can acknowledge that. But there's times where it just baffles me where he says he doesn't like Riley Sutter. He doesn't like these guys because they're not fast. And I'm like, they don't need to be fast. They need to be hard checking. They need to play their role. Riley Sutter's not coming into the team to be a top six guy, a middle six guy. He's there to be a penalty killer, use his body, win faceoffs and crucial times, and shut down the other team. That's exactly what we need on that fourth line. As much as I love Scarbosa and he's playing really well, he's 30. That's not going to be I think he's gone. Like, I don't even think we bring him back next year because he's in his 30. He's 30 years old. What are you going to do with a 30-year-old, right? He's got, 3 to 4 years tops of skating left. Once you hit 34, especially with this team, your skating ability goes out the window. Unless you're a goaltender, which for some reason, goaltenders find ways to, and maybe even defensemen, find ways to turn back time and become, like, I've seen it from time and again. And Jonathan Quick is one of those examples this year. He found the fountain of youth because he's playing amazing for the Rangers, even better than Igor. At this point, Jonathan Quick could be their starter of how well he's outplaying Igor, and Igor is supposed to be their top player. Igor is a Vezina-winning trophy goaltender. I don't think Quick ever won it, but that's not my point. We don't need speed on the fourth line. The fourth line is there to check, block shots, and shut down the other opponent's top line. So Riley Sutter fits that build. He just because he's not as fast as he was last year doesn't mean he's not ready. I think he's ready. The only thing that's holding him back is Dowd and Scarbosa. I think Scarbosa's there to fill the shoes until either Dowd comes back or gets. And even if we don't trade Dowd at the deadline, I still think we're going to trade him in the offseason because his contract ends next year, and we're not going to want to repay him. We're going to try to get a little bit younger because I believe Dowd. Does he turn 30? Is he 30 this year, or is he 29?
Who? Scarbosa?
No, Dowd.
Dowd is 30 now, I'm
30.
pretty sure.
30? Okay. So that's my point. And Riley Sutter, I believe, is only 24. So
No, Dowd is 33.
Oh, he's 33. So yeah, he's 9 years younger. I believe. No, Sutter might be 23. He's 22. How old is Sutter? He's been in the league for 4 years, I think. He was drafted in 2018, I think. No, 2019. He's got to be 20.
Sutter is
22?
24.
24. So I was right. Okay. So he's 24. That's 9 years younger than Dowd. He's 6 years younger than Scarbosa. That's exactly the type of guy we need. And plus, he's played really well with Beck Malenstein on the left side. And another guy I could see trading, which you don't like him much, but I can see NAK being traded as well, because I do think there's another guy in Hershey that's going to fit, but we're not talking about. But he had an amazing spring. He had an amazing rookie camp. He had an amazing preseason. What's his first name? What the hell is his first name? I don't want to say Richard Hoffer. It's Hofer. His name's Hofer. I don't know what his first name is. But he's playing really. He's playing well in Hershey right now.
Roster now.
There's also Dubé, Pierrick Dubé, who came out of nowhere. Pierrick Dubé, he came out of nowhere this year for. There's also another
Ryan
guy
Hofer. Ryan Hofer's the guy you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think he is the fourth line guy on that right side. I think it's going to be Malenstein, Sutter, and Hofer. That's going to be our fourth line in the future, and I think that's an excellent fourth line. I think that's a fourth line that could potentially win you games, maybe even get you far in the playoffs, because like that. I don't know if that was the fourth line in Hershey, because I think Hofer was still in the juniors or overseas, but I know for a fact that Malenstein and Sutter were dominant on that fourth line and were a huge reason why the Bears won the Calder Cup last season. So
right now, Marcus, who would you say after the game against Pittsburgh, what is it, Thursday, who will have definitely played their last game as a Cap by then, if not before?
Mantha. Anthony Mantha is definitely gone. And it's looking like Edmonton is going to trade for him. It looks like he's going to be an Edmonton Oiler, because that's the rumor right now. Is Edmonton is the favorites to pick him up. I still think Vegas gets him, because Vegas is going to be without their captain for a while. He might even miss the rest of the season. So they're definitely going to need a guy in the top six. But there's a sneaky team I could definitely see getting him. And that is within our division. I think the Carolina Hurricanes could very well use him in their top six. They could very well use him in their bottom six. They need a guy that's going to go throw the body, that's going to get in the deep dirty areas, which Mantha has done this year, which credit to Spencer. Spencer has turned Mantha around. Mantha has a tendency to be lazy at times this year, especially late, like since I think November. Mantha has not been that same lazy guy. He's every night, every shift, he looks like he's giving it his all. So I think he's definitely gone. Another guy I think we'll see play his last is Nick Dowd. I do think Dowd's gone, even though he's on injured reserve. I think he's played well enough this year, even though he's hurt, for teams to look, hey, we need Nick Dowd. I don't think he's going to get a first rounder now that he's hurt, but I do think he's still going to get us maybe a second rounder, which we can then turn into, like the last two second round picks that we've had have are studs. Ryan Chesley, Andrew Cristal, both of them should have been in the first round. Both of them fell out of the first round, and both of them fell right into our laps. So I think Dowd's gone, but outside of that, anything's up in the air. But for sure, I think Dowd and Mantha are goners. I think for sure they're goners. I think Edmonton may be gone. Pacioretty looks like he wants to be gone, but we're going to have to talk about him. And yeah, Kuznetsov. I think Kuznetsov's gone. I do. But I'm going to wait for my opinion until next Sunday about what I really feel about him. I do think he is, if he does well in Hershey, he'll be gone either Friday or he'll be gone in the offseason because teams are going to look at that. He's changing. He's getting his game. He got his game back. He's ready to go back to the NHL, and he's ready to roll. But I'll hold my opinion on that until next week's episode because I don't know. He just cleared waivers, so he will be reporting to Hershey. Will he play in Hershey or will he throw a fit? Who knows? So I'm going to hold off my opinion on Kuznetsov until next week.
All right. And I will get to Kuznetsov myself in a minute here, but I will have to agree with you and say Mantha is most likely gone. I'm going to take a chance and say as much as he's been coveted, so I hear, I think maybe, just maybe, I don't think any team is going to be able to meet Brian McClellan's asking price for Nick Dowd. So actually, it wouldn't surprise me if he stays. If Dowd does go, it better the hell not be for any less than a second rounder. It's been said that he's going to fetch a first rounder. I'm a little dubious of that, but it better not be for less than a second rounder. Otherwise, there's no point because Dowd has driven the forward defense. And he's your key faceoff man. So you give him up, then you might as well throw in the towel on the season. And it better mean that Riley Sutter is ready, and he could very well be ready. And being with Malenstein, I like that. I like that idea in reuniting with him because you've seen what bringing up some of the Hershey guys have done for the guys that have already made it. McMichael, Malenstein. Now, when LaPierre came up, instantly an even further jump to their game. So I kind of like that. So I think you're going to see Malenstein's game improve even further. Although I don't think it's been that bad. He's a little like here's a name from the past. Malenstein, at least lately, has been a little like Mike Eruzione to me. Can do everything you ask him to. Has a little trouble finding the net sometimes, and that showed in today's game.
Yeah,
but I don't.
Times.
Overall, I don't have a big problem with his game, and I think you're right. I think he's going to get a nice jump, courtesy of that benefit from reuniting with Sutter. I'd really like to see that.
I'm telling you, I'm
hoping
right now,
that's the plan.
That future fourth line: Malenstein, Sutter, Hofer. They actually played in the preseason. I think they played on the same line in the preseason. They looked good.
Hofer got some time in the preseason, yeah.
And he looked good. I'm telling you, and I think I think like I said, I don't know if they played together in the preseason, but I think they did. I think they had like a couple minutes together, and they looked good. Hofer actually got a couple goals in the preseason. So I'm telling you now,
he got one. He got at least one that I remember.
Yeah, it was the first game, the first preseason. I think the one we lost. I think to Detroit, he scored one of the first two goals. Malenstein, Sutter, Hofer. That is the future fourth line. I'm telling you right now. But let's now. I don't know if you want to talk about Kuznetsov or we can go into the next shift in the next one.
I got one last pick.
Okay.
And look, I haven't for the most part cared much for his game. I don't bear him any ill will. He played great last year, I thought, but as I've said a lot, he's hit a wall this year. Nick Jensen.
I knew it.
I would, for the betterment of the team, I would like to see him go because he's on the wrong side of 30. I think that 3-year extension was a mistake. They're probably going to have to eat some salary to get rid of him. But I would kind of like to see him go for the betterment of the team because I think that opens the door for Alexiev to get more time, which has been a little bit criminal. And
he's looked amazing lately. Like the minutes he's been playing.
But think of how good he could be if he'd gotten all that time he should have been getting because they signed Edmondson, because they signed Bear. 2 mistakes, in my opinion.
Well, they didn't sign Edmondson; they traded for him.
But okay, you're right. But they got 2 defensemen that they probably didn't need, and it also opens the door in part for Vincent Iorio to get some time, maybe.
Yeah, but here's the thing about him. Arario is not having a good year in Hershey. I'm sorry, but he's not really. His offensive game is not really showing up this year. And I don't know if it's he's also been hurt a lot this year, so I don't know and this is why I'm the guy we're going to bring up soon. I think this will depend on if Nick Jensen gets traded. If Jensen gets traded, don't be shocked if the Caps and if the Gophers if they lose in the regional round, don't be shocked if this kid, this 19-year-old, puts pen to paper and inks that contract and comes over and plays a couple games for the Caps and finishes the season in Hershey, because they need help on that right side of the defense. Outside of Carlson, I don't like TVR as much as I love TVR when we first got him. He's not, and he has his moments. There's a lot of times where he just doesn't. He cannot have the ability to get the puck out of the zone. He fails to clear, and it leads to a goal almost half the time that it does happen. And there's Nick Jensen. I just don't think those two are gonna be in the plans for the right side. And I also think John Carlson could be towards trading. And I think John Carlson might be a target to trade in the offseason. I think John Carlson's days in Washington are coming to an end. As much as Ovi and everyone else wants to admit, I think maybe not this year. He still has, I think, 3 years left on his contract. I think either not this offseason, but definitely next offseason, or maybe next year's deadline to look to trading him. Because I think right now at the point we have 3 young defensemen, either in the college, juniors, or the minors, that are nearing close, ready to go. And that brings, like I said, but it all depends on what we do with this year's deadline. If Jensen's traded, don't be shocked. If McClellan calls up Minnesota, calls up their Chesley, who has taken a huge step this year defensively. And I mean, in the World Juniors, he shut down the top prospects in the World Juniors this year. And he looked very good at it. And he scored some timely goals, got some timely assists. Don't be shocked if he ends up on the roster to end the season for the Caps and plays a couple games towards the end of the year.
All right. You're calling Ryan Chesley to make the jump to the Bears this year
at the end of the season. But I do think he'll play a couple games for the Caps because they want him to get used to he looked good. He looked good in the training, the rookie camp. He definitely looks like he'll be our number one defenseman, because I think Martin Ferrari will be that offensive guy. Sandin. Sandin will be that offensive guy. He'll be I think the top pairing in the future is going to be Sandin, Chesley, Ferrari, Arario. That's going to be the top 4. And I've seen some articles lately that are saying that Chesley's not going to be. He's going to be a bottom 6 defenseman. I think that's bullshit. I think that's they're looking past his two. He's not an offensive guy. He's a two-way defender. Yes, can he put the puck in the net? Yes, but his mainly game and his main thing that's really attractive about him is he is a puck-moving defenseman. He is also a neutral zone shutdown defender, and it showed in the World Juniors. Look how hard he made it for other teams, especially Team Sweden in that gold medal game. He made it difficult for them to get into the other zone. He's ready to make that jump. He's ready to go to Hershey. He's not ready for the NHL yet, but I'm just saying, I think he can. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays a couple games in DC to see how he feels, and then if he feels really well and he feels good, they might keep him for the rest of the season. Then he'll start in Hershey next year, kind of like Arario did last year. Arario came up for a few games towards the end of the season. He felt good. I don't know if he finished the season with the team. I think he did. He might have not have. But then he went back to Hershey and he had that amazing playoff run for the Bears. So I think that's exactly what's probably going to happen for Chesley. I think, honestly, what's there left for him to do? Is he going to go back his junior year? I mean, he went from bottom of the line minutes last year as a freshman in Minnesota to like 22 minutes a game, and he played really well. He's not putting up points. And I'm not scared about that because of his style of play. He's a two-way defender. And here's another thing. He can hit. His hits, I think there was a hit in the World Juniors that was a nasty hit. I think it was against Latvia. He just completely destroyed one of their forwards. So he's ready. He's ready to make the jump. There's a lot of people that are still hesitant with him. I'm not. I think Chesley's game has grown. I've watched almost all the games for Team USA this year. He has really he was playing top. Like the fact that he was given the A, he was also given top pair minutes from the head coach, David Carl, my favorite head coach because he coaches my favorite college team, the Pioneers, the Denver ODU. He put him on the top line. He had faith in him, and just because he's not putting up numbers like he did in the US, USP? What is it called? The minor league before the under 18 league for the US team.
So the US Junior Tier 1 is the USHL. That's
USHL. Yes.
US Junior.
There's another one. There's another one too, but I think it was USHL. It's either that or the other one. I think which is USPHL or PDA, USPDA, or I think it's PHL. It's their development program where Team USA has that. Where a lot of the players recently, like the last 3 years, I've seen I think 15 guys out of that program have been drafted. Leonard's one of them. Will Smith is one of them. Gabriel Perreault is one of them. Like those guys are coming out of that. And but Chesley was another one of them. I think it was 3 years ago that the entire first round, I think 11 of those guys or 8 of those guys are drafted from that program in the first round. So but he put up monster numbers in that league, but that's not his game. Like his game is a two-way defender. You're not going to always get goals from a two-way defender. You're more than likely going to get defensive style play from a two-way forward than you are going to get of an offensive man. If he was an offensive heavy defenseman and he's not scoring, I'd be worried. But he's not. He's a two-way defender. So there's nothing really to worry about if he doesn't score every night or he's not putting the puck in the net more often than he should because his other side of the game has really shined right now. So I think he's ready to make the jump, but we'll see. But it all depends on what we do at the deadline. If Nick Jensen doesn't get traded, I don't see us signing him until at least the offseason.
All right. But yeah, I think, and I was guilty of this before we move on and finish up here. I was guilty of this. I was at first excited about the Ethan Bear signing because it meant that they were getting younger on the back line. Then I actually saw the guy play and
he was bad. He's so bad.
What I should have said was younger and better, not just younger. Yeah, I don't know what's going to become of that, but you're right. If I think Jensen will be the key. I think there's a lot of teams out there that are looking for a veteran, bottom six pair defenseman that can finish up those minutes. And I think Jensen's an attractive target. If and only if, and this is the downside of it, the Caps are willing to eat the rest, a good chunk of the rest of that contract, which is a big reason why it was a mistake to extend him. But we'll see. But that's a target, and we'll see what happens next week. We'll come back with you next week and see what exactly happens. But could be buckle your seatbelts, guys. It could be a completely different look for this team. But I think you're going to like the way they play. I've been saying that, and I'm confident in that because you're going to see a lot of guys that are hungry and are going to get a lot of time that didn't normally get some time before.
Do you want me to talk about Ryan Leonard real quick? Because you did say you want me to mention that.
Yes. Yeah. Let's. Okay. Yeah. Let's finish up on Leonard for those who haven't been introduced to him, because I think he's also going to be a key component of the Caps' future. So yeah, let's wrap that up.
He's the future right wing. He's the future top line right winger. So Brian McClellan and the front office, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, they came out and stated that their decision on Ryan Leonard will be on his decision. So they're giving him, if he feels like he wants to play, I think he needs to go back another year. He has an amazing year this year. but I just feel like if he goes another year and grows his game even more, once we sign him, he might not even have to go to Hershey. Right now, I feel like he'll have to go to Hershey to grow his game a little bit more. But if he stays another year in Boston College and then he signs with us, I think he instantly goes on the roster. I think he can skip over the AHL. But ultimately, it's not my decision. I'm not the general manager, but it's also not the general manager's decision. It's Ryan Leonard's decision. Does he want to come back? Does he want to go back to Boston College? What happens if the Eagles lose in the Frozen Four? Does he going to feel like, hey, we could have won it this year, but I think next year we'll win it? Look at Cal McCarr for an example. Another reason why I don't want to always go back to Colorado, but Cal McCarr is the best example recently. He had a chance to sign with Colorado after his freshman year in UMass. He chose, nope, I'm going back. I want to, because I have stuck to my guns. I want to turn this program around, and he did. The very following season, they went to the Frozen Four. They went to the NCAA tournament. They lost. They lost in the championship game, but he proved his game even more. And honestly, right now, he's the best defenseman in the league. And I think because he spent that second season in UMass, it helped him grow even more. And I feel like that's what Ryan Leonard needs. There's a lot of part of his game that I still feel like he needs to grow. And I don't think he's going to get it out of Hershey, because Hershey, the AHL is not like the college. The AHL is a lot tougher. It's a lot rougher than the AHL right now. And I think another year of growing, getting stronger, building up. And then like if he can do this again next year. And here's another thing that really, really worries me about Leonard. He's doing it right now because he's played on this line since I think he was 14 years old, maybe even 10. They've been together for a long time. What happens when he's not with Will Smith and Gabriel Perreault? What happens when Perreault and Smith aren't feeding him the puck? We've had a little glimpse of that recently without, I think Perreault or Smith are hurt. And I think it's Gauthier, former Flyers draft pick, got traded to Anaheim for Drysdale. He's been playing with I think either Smith. No, I think it's Smith. Smith's hurt or one of them's hurt. He's been playing with that line, and Leonard's still been producing, but he still has the other one of the two. So I don't know. That's why I want him to go back to Boston College, because if Will Smith and Gabriel Perreault leave, I want to see him produce the same way he's producing now with them in the lineup. So I think he should go back. But like I said, Brian McClellan in the front office came out and said, if the decision's up to him, if he wants to come, he'll sign. If he feels like he needs more time, they'll go back.
All right. Makes sense. And that's sort of, that's a good point, because that's going to be a good measuring stick for, is he the real deal or not? I already like his compete level. I like what he can do. I like the attitude he brings to the big stage. He's already been a featured player in World Junior Championship tournaments. He's already proven he can come up big in the big games. So I like that. You can never have too many of those guys. That kind of thing gets pretty infectious, I think, throughout a locker room. So that's going to be really great to see once he comes up, regardless of what his skill rating will be. So I want to wind it up by mentioning what happened, or giving my take on Kuznetsov. Marcus is taking the right tack, I think, by holding back here, and I think we all should. But as I mentioned several weeks ago, when he was first announced as checking into the player assistance program, some of you out there feel the need to treat this like some sort of big joke moment, or bye Felicia moment. Well, F all of you who think so. And I'm sorry, but you people aren't Caps fans anyway. You people are treating it like that. Beyond that, personally, I wish Kuznetsov the best, no matter what happens to him. I will always remember the guy that makes the game fun to watch, that scored one of the biggest goals in team history in overtime in the 2018.
He eliminated the Pittsburgh Penguins
second round.
That
goal. That goal
matters.
That is going to live in Caps lore forever, no matter what he does, no matter who he plays for. And I only wish him well. as I mentioned go ahead.
To quote your doppelganger, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Pittsburgh. The Capitals have finally done it. They've slayed the dragon. That will forever be etched in the words of DC Sports.
And one guy was responsible for that, and we should never, ever forget him.
I'd say two. I mean, that play, Ovi made an amazing poke. Kuznetsov made a poke, and then Ovi made a beautiful pass.
Ovi, it's assumed. So
yeah.
But anyway, so I will always look at him as that icon. Yes, I know it's a what have you done for me lately type of business, and it is a business. And yeah, I can look at it objectively and say, look, he hasn't been producing, and maybe he hasn't been in a good headspace. But again, I only wish him well. I want to take this opportunity to, if indeed he has played his last game as a Capital, thank him for his years of service with the team. Hasn't always been great, hasn't always been, a lot of laughs, but he made it everything he could when he could. And I think he's done nothing but great for the organization. So thank you, Evgeny, spasibo, and wish you well no matter what the road takes you these coming weeks and months. Okay, so we're going to stop here. So obviously, Marcus and I, as we said, we're going to reconvene for next week's episode and find out what the damage actually was. We talked about what could happen. Next week, we'll find out what did happen and what the damage is going to be and how the Caps are going to look because of it, and where they're going to go from there. Marcus, just real quick for a last couple minutes discussion, other than the names we mentioned for the Caps, is there another name league-wide out there, big name, that you see might be on the move?
There's two. Well, there's actually four, but there's two that have been talked about a lot, and there's one that I find hilarious because he plays for one of our rivals, but I feel like there's a player on that team that makes him look better than he actually is, and that's Jake Guentzel. And a lot of people are going to give me shit for that, but Jake Guentzel has only been good because he's played with Sidney Crosby. I'm sorry, but I'm not afraid to admit Sidney Crosby is going to go down as one of the best players to ever play the game, probably one of the best centers to ever play the game.
You get no argument from me. Anybody who says Sidney Crosby is not one of the top players in pro hockey ever is a fool.
And he's made Guentzel look good in his career. I mean, yeah, there's times where Guentzel's look good without Crosby. But I feel like once he leaves that team and he gets traded, his numbers are not going to be as good as his numbers would be with Crosby. It's the same situation with Panarin. Panarin's numbers, like they're not great, but they're not as amazing as they were when he was with Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane is another one. Patrick Kane made him look really good, but then when he went to Columbus, he had okay numbers. He had good numbers, but he didn't have amazing numbers like he had in his rookie year with Chicago. And look what he has in New York right now. He has okay numbers. They're not amazing. They're not shooting out like, oh my God, superstar numbers. No, but he is playing with Mika Zibanejad, who makes him look better. Mika Zibanejad is another player that I'm going to get shit for saying it, but Mika Zibanejad is probably the best player on the Rangers right now because he plays really well. That line, I think is that line with Panarin and Kreider. I think that's their top line. That top line is a pain in the ass to play against every night because Kreider gets in front of the net. Zibanejad's always going to be a threat, and Panarin's Panarin. He has a hell of a shot. But the other guy is Pavel Buchnevich. I think that's how I say his name. Buchnevich. I don't know how you pronounce the name. Buchnevich. Okay. Former Ranger. He is also a potential trade target. He is more likely going to be if Vegas, like I said, Vegas is a potential to get Mantha, but I think honestly, Buchnevich is going to go to Vegas because they absolutely need a player like him. I think Casey Middlestad is another player. Like a team that desperately, like if they don't do anything right now, they're going to get knocked out of the first round, and that's the Avs. Because they need a number 2 center. And don't be shocked if they trade everything to get a number 2 center because they're still cup contenders. So Casey Middlestad's another one from Buffalo. He's playing amazing for Buffalo. What a year. They're underwhelming, but they're starting to win games, which is probably going to hurt them because they do this every year. They play well in the beginning of the season. This year they actually played terrible. They started terrible, but they usually play well in the season, beginning of the season. Then they play like shit in the middle of the year, and then they pick it up again towards the end of the season and barely miss the playoffs. So I think Casey Middlestad has been playing really well. His contract's up. He's a guy that could go. Another guy that could go is Tarasenko. Tarasenko could always go. There's talks that Brady Tkachuk might be on the trade block as well, which I don't think will happen. There's Jacob Sucram, but the two main guys that I would say are Brzezinski and Gensel. But I honestly think if any team trades for Gensel, they're not going to get much out of it because Gensel's benefiting from playing with Crosby. So, but yeah, those are the two guys. The two guys I want to mention, Gensel and Brzezinski. If you want my prediction, I will give it to you right now. I think Brzezinski goes to Vegas, and I think Gensel goes to Florida.
All right. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, by the time we hit you next week, it will be Sunday, day after, 24 hours after the deadline. So
I think it was Friday. The deadline was Friday.
You're right. 48 hours after the deadline. So that Sunday will be 2 days after, and the Caps will have a game the night before against Chicago.
Saturday. Yep.
That's Saturday. So that'll be the first game with any new lineup changes. So we'll have that game and several others real quick just to go over.
Our next game, I believe, is Toronto on Wednesday. I think we play.
Pittsburgh.
We play Pittsburgh.
Caps
again.
play Pittsburgh on Thursday the 7th and Chicago on the 9th, and that finishes this week. And then they go on a long Western road trip.
Western trip, yeah, that's right. Because they play
in the middle of the month. So
yeah, they go up north. They play Vancouver. I think they have Calgary. They have Winnipeg, and they have Edmonton. They play. Yep. Yeah, they play up north. That's their northwestern trip for the year.
Yep, they're going to go all the way out to Seattle for that one.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting. Any new guys will have the chance to bond. So that's kind of good timing there. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. I know this one's kind of long, but I did promise you chock full of information, speculation, hot stove talk. So we got it for you here. I hope we gave you a lot of good ideas to kind of kick around the water cooler and talk about with your fellow Caps fan. Some of you might have been wanting to throw your iPhone or whatever, you on the other side of the speakers, the earbuds. And that's all right. Long as we get you involved in the discussion, that's great. But like I said, we'll be back next week to find out what the damage was and see where the Caps go from here. So for Marcus Lemley, this is the Blue Liner on Point signing off and reminding you that, well, now that the weather's getting warmer, my winter fat is gone. Now I have spring rolls. You know, because the Caps play in Chinatown.
Oh, my God.
Hallelujah, and let's go Caps.
Go Caps.
This has been another episode of the Power Play Point Podcast. All episodes are available from Apple Podcasts, the Podbean app, blueliner77.podbean.com, and now available from Stitcher. Music by Joe McAllister, voiceover by Jeffrey Conkle.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Power Play Point Podcast. Thanks for listening.